My first paper, I kind of felt like, I guess, against homeless people in a way, because I would see, like, you know, like she said, if you want to offer them money for groceries, like, they wouldn't take it. It's like they wanted it just for beer or for cigarettes. One time I gave a man a cigarette and he took it like that in a heartbeat, but if I tried to give him a water bottle, it was like, no. So I kind of figured, you know, that they want help for all the wrong reasons, and that they're not trying to better themselves, and then, you know, it's like, how could they better themselves without an ID, without a social security card, without a permanent address? Like, how are they supposed to even attempt to make a change in their life? And so my intervention strategy is, I think that I saw a cop driving a Camaro the other day, brand new Camaro, undercover cop. How can we pay all these tax dollars and things in a brand new Camaro? Okay, why can't we have free public transportation for once? Like, why do we have to pay for the VIA? Like, why can't there be some type of system where people can get to school and work for free because our tax dollars pay for it anyway? Like, basically pay all this money out. So it would be like Haven for Hope, but I would want more of them, like, you know, like dorms. And I would want us to shuttle or to go pick up all the homeless people and make it a law or of something. Like, you'd be arrested or you'd be ticketed if you don't attempt to go to that program, because there is a program there, and we would get everybody off the streets. If, you know, like, put them in jail, do whatever we can, like, and the program would be like Haven for Hope, but they would live there and they would get all, like, their medical and, you know, psychological, everything, their type of needs, but they would start off with, like, an allowance, give you, like, $100, just, you know, like, the government's lending you $100, and what you would do is you would go and you would get your ID, get your social security card, you would have a permanent address because you'd be staying there at, like, Haven for Hope. You know, get everything that you would need to start a job, and then try to find a job and pay back that money that they lent you. So basically, it's just like a way to help you get started, and you could change your life. And if there is a program like that, there'd be no reason for anybody to be on the streets. Especially if it was like, you know, if there's free public transportation, if there's stuff like that. So that's what I think I would basically give my strategy, that I think that if we pay so much in tax dollars, there is ways to get people off the streets, and there is ways that they could have a permanent address and get started. And I kind of think that that's what from not really caring about them and thinking, because now after the panelists came, I think it changed my mind a lot with the philosophy aspect and knowing, like, the books that homeless people have read, and actually, like, staying there for a few hours downtown, I probably would have gone nuts any longer than that. Like, and I feel for them more now after I've learned more about them, and, like, that it's not always their fault, that they weren't born, you know, like, not all of them choose to be homeless. Some of them have no choice, you know, and so, I don't know. I think that's
a little bit, my first paper, like her, I thought, like, well, I had two different views. Like, some homeless people are, like, to me, they are just lazy. Like, in my neighborhood, in our neighborhood, there's, like, a group of men, and they always panhandle for me. They ask me every day, you know, for $1. And I'm like, dude, if I give you $1 every day, I'm not going to have any dollars left. So, anyways, I think there's those people, and then there's those people who are, like, they just, you know, fell into hard times, like families and stuff like that. So, in my paper, I focused on, like, homeless teens who, like, age out of the system and things like that. So my intervention would be for those, like, homeless teens. Like, you don't ever see them, but you know they're around. Like, they have to be, like, homeless younger people, too. So it would be, like, a shelter, like, with 2 dormitories for males and females. And on the female side, it would have more rooms because girls can have babies, so more space. And and there they would get, like, some job training and maybe use a little bit of Project Quest, some of their money to help me out and help with the job training aspect, and, like, Project Word for the girls with the babies so they can control that. And then, like, they would get food, and it'd be, like, temporary housing for teens. That's what I would do. And my stereotype hasn't really changed because, like, I still see those people who ask me every day for money. So I'm like, and then there's still those people who are, like, homeless for a little bit. So I feel like, yes, some people do fall on hard times, and yes, they do try. But then there's some people who just, I don't know what's wrong with them. Like, they just kind of like it. So, kind of, I don't know.
Recalling my first paper, I've always thought, like, it was homeless people, you know, I always try to keep an open mind about it, that sometimes it can be just a matter of circumstance, and like you said, it could just be for economic reasons sometimes, not because somebody made a bad decision and chose to be homeless. I don't think everybody that's homeless is made that decision. I just think sometimes it's a matter of circumstance, and I think that I forget his name, Father Thomas. Father Thomas was saying we do have a moral obligation, to take care of each other. We don't live in a utopian society where everything is perfect. Like you need to be a realist in these types of situations and realize this is not a utopian society. If you're fortunate enough and you have enough to help, what is it going to hurt you to help out a little bit? So I thought, in terms of my intervention strategy, what does it all boil down to? What is the root of all of it? And it's money, because that's what makes our society function. So I thought, okay, well, what can we do to possibly to lessen the situation, to facilitate the situation? And I thought the government, because that's who controls our money and our taxpayer dollars. So I thought, if we have the capacity right now to potentially do this social healthcare reform, which they say it's going to be 2 to 4 years before we see any kind of changes like that, then why couldn't we possibly cut down on some of the government spending that we're doing for the war? We're constantly having tax hikes. If we cut down on those things, I was watching the History Channel a couple of days ago. The show was called 10 Ways or something to Kill Osama bin Laden. And I was listening to I know it's silly, but it was on the History Channel. And they were talking about everything was just in terms of money. They were talking about this Tomahawk missile that they spent $750,000 on, where they weren't even 100% sure, not even 75% sure sometimes when they were launching these missiles, if they were actually hitting the right camp. And I'm thinking that, $750,000, that's not a lot in comparison to how much they're spending, all together, but just for one little missile, and here they are launching missile after missile after missile. What if we use that here, in our country, to better the homeless situation? So I was thinking, instead of funding a bunch of little, havens for hope, what if they did one on each side of town, 4 communities, just homeless communities where they built kind of large. In Las Vegas, and I got the idea because in Las Vegas they have this community where you don't even have to leave the strip. They have their grocery stores there. They have their own hospital. It's like a community within a city, within a community is what I'm trying to say. So if we spent our money and just built these 4 large communities that had a small medical center for those homeless people who might be mentally ill or need medical attention, and just somewhere for them to sleep, just shelter. The government could fund that, and then people who helped build the grocery stores and stuff could get tax credits, and that way they don't feel taxpayers don't feel oh, here we are, just paying and paying and paying. You have to tell yourself, a lot of our tax dollars go to things, frivolous spending that we don't need. You mentioned something about the Camaros, the way the state spends their money, that's just frivolous spending. We could really substantially cut down on some of that spending and use it on what we
transportation.
what we really need, and then to cut down on having to worry about where the money is going, just use vouchers for everything. Saying if you're going to live within this community, this community that's built specifically for the homeless, we're going to use all vouchers. You're going to work here at this grocery store, for this company, for this owner who built this grocery store, who's getting their tax credits, and in turn, you're going to get paid with a voucher because you're going to live here in this community, and we're going to give you vouchers for clothing and for food. And that way, like I said, taxpayers don't get so angry that, my money's just going to, feed these people who are terrible people and they've put themselves in bad situations, because some of those people might not be terrible people. And just until they get back up on their feet, they could have the ability to work a second job to make actual real money and not vouchers, to where they could get back out into the real world. I think this would also cut back on some bankruptcy and foreclosures, because sometimes people, like I said, who are in a bad situation, might have owned a home at one time, and because of the economic situation had their home foreclosed. Well, this would eliminate some of that problem, I think. Living within this community would give them a permanent address, social security number, just somewhere stable, not just when when I was reading that article that you had posted on transitional housing, it's for 6 to 8 months at a time. I mean, that's not a long time. When you're in a bad situation, 6 to 8 months, you're just, how are you going to prepare yourself? What are you going to do after the 6 to 8 months are done? You're going to be you might be in the same situation. There's a good likelihood you're going to be in the same situation.
Well, and externally, let me add that externally, that 6 or 8 months may be right in the middle of a downturn in an economic cycle, like now, where from the end of 2007 to the middle of 2010, a 6 or 8 month interval wouldn't have done anything to improve the job market.
So it's like a vicious cycle. There's no opportunity for that person to get out of that situation, and you might ask yourself, like, how would we let these homeless people know that, if something like this were to ever start, where the government were to really say, we're really going to cut back on some of this frivolous government spending, some of this like nonsensical government spending that we're doing, and set a timeline, say, in a couple of years, this is what we plan to do. In 4 years, this is what we plan to do. And that way, because homeless people on the street right now would have no idea that this is going on. They're not going to hear it on the radio. They're not going to see it on the news. They don't have anywhere to sleep, much less somewhere to hear it. So again, from that article that I was reading, it mentioned somewhere on there, they're trying to like take a census of all the homeless people, sending people out to,
That's what
to
I
drive.
talk about. I said that, I mentioned that in my paper as well. Like, we need more word of mouth. We
Yeah.
need people to go out to the parks where the homeless people are, out under the bridges.
Just to let them know.
To let them know, hey, there is this place over here, and if there was this type of transportation, they'd have a way to get there. Or even if we shuttled them, like got a van and someone went, and like
Right.
think of all the homeless people, and therefore, if it was a law that there was a program capable for you, there's no reason for you to be on the streets.
And because right now there's so many, students in college, and now more than ever we have, students enrolling. Like, it would be a great way, like I was mentioning, like if they have like medical facilities within these communities, some of the students would have more places to intern at, and that's kind of like you're working for free, you're volunteering, you're helping. And it goes all back to what Father Thomas said. It's our moral obligation. We're all kind of contributing with our tax dollars, helping out with the volunteer work. If small businesses wanted to get some sort of tax credit, they could help. So I think that's kind of just a small way to, when you're on rock bottom, that's just a small way to kind of get you up off the floor, That's what I'm saying. It's frivolous spending.
And cable.
So has my stereotype changed? No, my stereotype has not changed. I still feel like some people are just in a situation sometimes because of the card they were dealt, and I think that everybody deserves a chance to get out of these bad situations. I don't think that just, just because some people are drug dealers and or involved in drugs, or they're alcoholics on the streets, means that you have to shun everybody else out. So no, my stereotype hasn't changed. In fact, I feel that more now, having taken this class more than ever, we do have a moral obligation, and we shouldn't stray from that.